And now you want
I'm John Osveric. I'm an emergency physician and the Director of Partnerships at the Emergency Medicine Innovation Collaborative. Again, thank you all for attending. Today, we have also a PitchER event where you're going to hear from 3 innovative acute care startups and then also hear from Inflect Health, telling us a little bit more about what they do. We have some other startups in our neighborhood here who you're more than welcome to mingle with after the presentations are done. We've got this space until 4 p.m., so feel free to network, meet other people, and help us build a community for acute care innovation. I'd like to talk a little bit more about the Emergency Medicine Innovation Collaborative. But first, I just want to thank all of our sponsors and supporters, namely Inflect Health, as well as Urgent Matters, the University of Tennessee Physician Executive MBA program, and then also Innovator MD. The Emergency Medicine Innovation Collaborative is a group started by Nick and Zaid in the back there, who are hard at work making sure our live stream is going. Their goal and our goal is to democratize innovation. And what that means to us is to give every ER doc in the country, whether you're at a community center or an academic center, access to the tools of innovation. What that means is creating and providing education, resources, community, and also opportunity. So we're hoping to do a little bit of all of that today. Each of the 3 startups you're going to hear from, they're going to have about 10 minutes to pitch, and then they're going to have 5 minutes for questions. So we're hoping that this is an interactive session. We hope that your participation can make these startups better so that we can be successful in acute care innovation. All right, without further ado, I'm going to have us start off with Dr. Josh Tamayo-Sarber from Inflect Health, the Vice President of Innovation there, talk a little bit more about what Inflect Health does. Here you go. Mic is live. And then to advance the slides, you just can use that. And I think you need to click.
Excellent.
Great.
Right.
Perfect.
Hello, and thank you for coming. Thanks for the introduction. Can everyone hear me okay? All right. Let's see. It's really unusual for people to say they want to hear more of me, so that's awesome. Can you hear me now? Okay. So let me tell you a little bit about Inflect Health, and more importantly, let me tell you what we look for when we're looking at startups and when we're trying to evaluate ideas. So first, we, I believe, are the go-to partner for funding, building, and scaling AI in healthcare. So what is our vision? Our vision is that here, as physicians, as the people who actually feel the pain on the front line of care, that you're going to help us take healthcare, add some artificial intelligence, and with that, we are actually going to improve lives. I think it's easy when we're talking about technology, when we're talking about venture, when we're talking about investment, that we think about the tech, we think about the money, we think about the shares, we think about integrations, EHRs, frustrations, and we forget that what we're doing actually is very important. Because people do not get the care they need. I'm an emergency physician, I've seen people needlessly suffer. I bet everyone here has. And because of that, we miss people who are no longer in our lives. So what can we do at Inflect to help you bring those to reality? So we will help take big, geeky dreams. We've had them ourselves. And with those, we can make a life-saving difference. So what do we do at Inflect? We invest, we incubate, and we advise. We are partnered with Vituity, so we have over 6,000 clinicians across 450 practice locations. We serve over 9 million patients. So because we are part of the front line, we understand the front line. So what makes us different? I think everyone's getting the idea. We actually eat our own cooking. So what does that mean, right? Can we take that, okay, we eat our own cooking and actually translate that into actually making a difference with companies? These are just a few of the companies that we've worked with, that we've mentored, and that we've launched. Who are our partners in the investing? Because just like the emergency medicine community, we don't do anything alone. Our investor partners include Microsoft, Google, Sierra Ventures. We get to work with all the big names, and that's really helped us bridge the tech and the entrepreneur with the actual, let's make life better for patients. Ooh, that got a lot louder that way, huh? All right, so what were those three things I mentioned? Inflect Capital. That's where we invest generally early, pre-seed and seed. We have Inflect Studio, where I spend a good chunk of my time. That's where we look at, we say, is there anybody doing something that we need as clinicians or that our patients need? When we don't see it, we say, are there any early companies that we can partner with? When we don't see that, we say, okay, we're going to build it ourselves and then launch it as its own company. And we've done that 5 times successfully over the past couple of years already. And then we have advisory, where I hope some of you are going to come after this and say, okay, we'd like to partner with you and take advantage of your experience in this space to make our big geeky dream reality. These are the companies that we've launched over the past few years. You may recognize some of them. These are some of the ones that we partner with now to help take their big geeky dreams and make them life-saving realities. And then, because this is an elevator pitch, this is my elevator pitch. So what is it that we are looking for when we are looking at an idea and someone comes to us with their big geeky dream? I actually am looking for elevators. So let's think about elevators. When elevators started, they went 3 floors, sometimes 4 floors. People died on them, and you had to pay someone to use them. Does anyone think that sounds like a good idea? Like to avoid climbing 3 flights of stairs? No, but that was a huge, important problem for society. Why was that a huge, important problem for society? Because without elevators, you really couldn't have buildings that are more than 3 or 4 stories high anywhere in our world. Could you imagine what Las Vegas would look like if the tallest building were 4 floors high? So the fact that their initial solution was abysmal, it killed people, it was expensive. The problem was so important to solve that it was worth sticking with it and getting it right. So what we want is we want to find an elevator problem. And the way that we do that is with ice cream. And part of that is because I really like ice cream. The other reason is because we use a jobs to be done framework. And what is a jobs to be done framework? Well, Clayton Christensen was asked what is the best milkshake. And the was because there was a fast food chain that created the best milkshake, and every focus group they showed it to said, this is the best milkshake. The problem is no one bought the milkshake. So if you're making the best milkshake and you can't make it cheap enough for people to buy it, then you have to ask, what is it that people are actually paying for? And when he dug into the problem, he found out that there were 2 different groups that were paying for 2 very different things. The people in the morning were commuters, and they wanted a milkshake because they wanted something to play with in their mouth, something that entertained them on their commute, something that kept them busy. So they wanted something thick and chunky and engaging. The other group were people in the afternoon, usually with their kids, often fathers taking their kids. They wanted to be able to say yes to something. Their kid wants a treat, they wanted to say yes to that treat. Well, I have 4 kids, and when my kids wanted a treat at a fast food place, I wanted them to get in, get a little sugar rush, and get out as fast as possible. I didn't want that big, thick, crunchy, chunky milkshake that the commuters wanted in the morning. So in the morning, people were buying a milkshake, but the problem that they were solving, what they were paying for, is to be entertained during their commute. In the afternoon, people were buying a milkshake, but what they were paying for was they were paying to be able to say yes to their kid and have a bonding experience. So we want to find elevator problems where the person talking to us about that problem really understands what someone's trying to accomplish. And what they're paying you for is to help get them to accomplish what they want to accomplish. Does that make sense? So, let me close with this. Everyone's here because you're interested in innovation. And I assume many of you, like me, have actually tried to do things. And many times when you try to do things, it doesn't work. In fact, most of the stuff, my boss is back there, he can assure you that most of what I do just doesn't work. And that generally leads me to frustration. And when I get frustrated, especially when I talk to someone and they say, this is what I'm trying to make, this is what I want, I make it for them and they don't use it, my frustration typically turns into anger. And my anger, when that happens, I can tell you I enjoy it and I appreciate it. because the customer, the user, they just don't understand. The user doesn't appreciate what I did. The user is doing it wrong. My patients just don't listen, right? And that anger feels really good. But I would encourage us all, because we do want to actually make a difference, to take that anger, that amazingly wonderful feeling of anger, and turn it into a much more difficult one, which is hope. And to take that hope that I can figure out how to make something that will resonate with my users, with my patients, with my clients. And with that, then I'm actually going to make a big difference. So I look forward to hearing 3 pitches of things that will make a big difference in but a moment. And there is always more to learn. Yeah.
Any questions for Josh? All right, thank you very much.
Or not. Yeah. Thanks.
All right, so we're just going to take a few minutes to let people migrate to the back. Get more drink tickets if you want, because basically,
I'm not actually sure how to turn this on.
And then also, we'll be loading up our first presentation of the day, our first startup from Ivy Clinicians, from Dr. Leon Edelman. We also have a QR code to some resources that were set up for innovators, early stage innovators, by the University of Tennessee Physician Executive MBA program. This is a free resource that they've made available to everyone here. So please follow that QR code if you'd like to learn more. Also, we have a QR code that leads to a feedback form, and that feedback form will go to our startup presenters today. So that'll help them get feedback on how they did, questions you might have, and thoughts for improvement. So feel free to get some more drink tickets if you'd like. And then in just a moment, you'll hear from Dr. Leon Edelman of Ivy Clinicians. All set? Great.
So this is the on switch, it's off right now.
Sorry.
Good afternoon. I'm Leon Edelman with Ivy Clinicians, and I'd like to start with a yes or no question, and the person who gets this question right first gets a pair of Ivy Clinicians socks. So the question is, before Ivy Clinicians, was the emergency medicine job market simple to navigate? Yes or no? Oh, correct answer. The answer was no. But Ivy Clinicians is here to simplify the emergency medicine job search. So the bottom line was that jobs were too hard to find in emergency medicine before Ivy Clinicians. And what do I mean by that? Well, job boards, which is our main technology, and I apologize to some of the folks in some booths over there. Job boards only list about 10% of emergency medicine jobs at any given point, and there's adverse selection, right? So if you're posting a job on a job board, you're signaling that you're kind of desperate to hire for that job, which for an emergency physician is signaling that maybe that really isn't a job worth having. There's also a timing issue, right? So job boards put up jobs that are open today. Well, we all know that it takes 6 months to do all the credentialing. If you're a resident, you're applying like 18 months in advance. What does job open today mean to you? Nothing. And so this mismatch, this job board jobs mismatch, lead emergency physicians to get their jobs through word of mouth, which is fine, but it's 2024. We've got to have something better. And you know what? Candidates were also hard to find before IV clinicians. So when I was a medical director in Northern Tennessee, 45 minutes outside of Nashville, we had no idea which emergency physicians in Nashville would be willing to drive 45 minutes to take a job with us, despite our place being awesome. And it was a great job, but we didn't know who wanted to apply. And what that led to was that it was expensive. We hired a recruiter full-time to work on hiring clinicians for us. That's expensive. And sometimes searches fail, leading to locums, which is even more time-consuming and expensive. So the bottom line is that emergency medicine needed a transparent, all-inclusive, secure, simple to navigate jobs and career platform. And that's what IV Clinicians is. We started with data because to get to that 100%, to get to every job in this country, every emergency department, every employer, we need the data. And so that's what we have. IV Clinicians is the first company, the first entity in the United States to have matched every single emergency department with its emergency medicine employer, matched the emergency medicine employer with its internal recruiting team, and connected that with lots of other information about both the emergency department, the hospital, and even the employer group. A lot of you probably know about ASAP Open Book, which there's a sign over there. IV Clinicians powers ASAP Open Book with all of this data. So how does it work? IV is like Zillow. So the workflow is supposed to feel comfortable. It's supposed to feel familiar. And so the clinician searches on IV by geography. You can then filter by your preferences. So instead of on Zillow, you put in your bedrooms and bathrooms. On IV Clinicians, you put whether you want there to be residents, whether you want it to be a critical access hospital, whether you want it to be a physician-owned clinician partnership. You can filter by the things that matter to you. You then apply directly through IV for free to the in-house. There's no gating, there's no nothing. The in-house recruiter gets your application. The application is verified. We verified the information with the National Federation of State, or the Federation of State Medical Board. So the recruiter knows that these are real applications with real information, and we even include board red flags. So Dr. Death doesn't get from IV Clinicians to Emergency Resources Group. So then there's an interview, and IV Clinicians is lead gen, right? So we are the connector. The actual hiring happens, at the USACS level or at the Vituity level. We do not pretend to know what different groups want, and we're not in the middle of that. Groups get to make their decisions. We do the introduction and get the information that groups need. So what's our business model? This is the make my wife happy slide. So on the clinician side, we're free, we'll always be free, and we're developing ancillary services to help job-seeking physicians. On the employer side, it's a, all right, join the something. So on the employer side, it's a freemium model. So to be visible on Ivy, all 5,800 emergency departments, every group, if you do nothing, you are visible, and people, physicians, PAs, nurse practitioners can apply to you as an employer through Ivy for free. If you want a premium experience, so if you want to post a job, to have the job show up high on the search results, to be on the nearby carousel, which points clinicians to EDs that are harder to staff, that are usually outside of metro areas. If you want all of that stuff, we charge market rates for that. We're also looking at future service lines. So data, so we have tons of data about the emergency medicine employer market. It is a little bit tricky because we're so protective of clinician information. We do not sell clinician information. We don't share clinician information. We do not, like, your information through Ivy is secure. And as Ivy, we are here to be a trusted intermediary. So we do not share or sell any clinician information. The next service line that we're going after is the locum tenens service line. We have to be very careful with that because we do not want an emergency physician to think that they are applying to USACS, but really they're applying to a third party, and then both sides can get stuck with an extra charge that they didn't want. So we have to be very careful about building the locum service line, which is why we still haven't done that. That should be live by the end of the year. And then other specialties in 2025, we're launching the hospitalist specialty, and then we'll move on from there as well. So I mentioned that Ivy Clinicians powers ASAP Open Book. We have a great relationship with the American College of Emergency Physicians. We share our data openly with them, and it's a good two-way street. We also power EMRA Match. So when you advise med students about where to look for information about residencies, Ivy Clinicians actually is the back end for EMRA Match. So who are we? I'm an emergency physician, trained at Beth Israel at the Harvard program there, was an ED medical director at 2 rural emergency departments before jumping into entrepreneurship. Matt Simpson is my co-founder and chief technology officer. He graduated top of his class from North Carolina State, has had 2 previous health tech startups, and is freaking amazing. So how are we doing? We are growing nicely. So what you want to see in these kind of graphs is up and to the right. We are going up and to the right. So over the last year, we've doubled our clinician visits per day. We're at over 150 clinician visits per day now. And those clinicians are searching all over. We use the North Dakota test. So I always, when I run this data, I always look like, are people searching for North Dakota? Because then I know they're like searching everywhere, and there's like a little red dot in North Dakota. I think people are wondering like how much they would make if they applied off to North Dakota. So we do project, and as Kate actually from the PEMBA program knows, any projection is made up, but our made up numbers say that we are going to have over $1 million of recurring revenue by 2025. So we are raising a rolling pre-seed round. So we're raising $1.5 million. We have already raised over $800,000 in this pre-seed, post-money safe round. And so we're looking for another $650,000. There are investors in this crowd. And what we are going to do with that money is we need to ramp up our development. There are 4 of us in the company right now, 2 developers, 1 designer. The demand for our services is much bigger than what we can supply right now. So we need more product creation, we need data, we need sales, we need marketing, and all of that takes money. And so we are raising money. So in conclusion, I have 1 more question, another yes/no question. The question is Ivy Clinicians the simplest way to find information about the emergency medicine job market? Yes or no? We have a winner. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So in a moment, we should have a QR code up to where you can give feedback via our feedback form. You can also use that form to reach out to Leon if you're interested in knowing more or potentially investing. But before that, questions for Leon.
Kate runs the question.
Yeah, good question. In your daily user graph, there seemed to be an anomaly. This big peak. Is that something you would tell us about, or do you know what it was?
That was just me clicking refresh like 15,000 times. No. So when we launch a new partnership, we tend to get a lot of traffic that wasn't meant for us. So that was the month that we launched Emra Match. And so a bunch of people went to Emra Match, they ended up on Ivy, and they were like, oh, no, that's not really what I was trying to do. And that's why you could see the curve went right back to its previous trajectory, because our native growth is at this point fairly predictable, has a predictable path.
What's your next marketing push going to be? Get some ideas on what you're doing.
Yeah, so marketing is a challenge for a pre-revenue company. And so right now, all of our marketing, all of our growth is unpaid. It's all, whether it's word of mouth, which is most of it, or LinkedIn, or things that we write. And so we do want to expand into more paid marketing. In terms of brand building, really the faster we can create product, the faster the word of mouth then spreads. So when we become the go-to place to find information about locums jobs, now we have a whole new cohort of both physicians and employers who say, oh, Ivy is the place to find information about the emergency medicine job market.
Perfect. Other questions?
What percent of your daily active users actually submit an application?
That's a good question. I'm gonna have to get back to you on exactly that number. I don't want to make that up. So what I can say is we do have a much larger number of people who what they do is they use Ivy in the home searchers use Zillow. So some people once in a while on Zillow click on the realtor with their picture on the side. But what most people do is they go to the open house or they get more information. On our platform, what's expected is you search for, say, Norfolk, and you see that the job is an EPT, Emergency Physicians of Tidewater job. You're like, oh, EPT, I know somebody at EPT. And then they call Bruce or they look at the website. And so we're totally fine with that, right? We want to be the place where information about the emergency medicine job market lives.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, we're going to be hearing from Dr. Dave Duncan, and he's going to be talking about Monumedical.
We're going to lapel up here,
Yes,
right?
I'm gonna
You want
I'm gonna
this
take both
and
of
the
them. Yes, I'll take that.
So off and on switches here.
Yep, I have it
To
off
the
right
right
now.
turns. Yep, I got
We
you.
got it.
All right, we'll get this.
You can't have my water.
I tried it, but it's done those sores in my mouth.
And then wherever you want this to go.
That one's on already.
All right, your
Cameras
mic
are
is
on.
live. The floor is yours.
Yeah. Slide it. Had this idea probably 15 years ago, so these fast as you can tell. We kicked this thing off initially in 2013, and there's an interesting story behind that. So let me dive right in. Are you hearing me okay? And don't click the button twice. Okay. So Monumedical is a company from Northern California that has disposable infusion devices. These are mechanical devices. There's not a battery in the lot. And this came from a pain point I identified during my training. I was a QI guy, and we noticed a lot of electronic infusion pump errors, and that just sort of made a mark on the back portion of some lobe somewhere. And at the end of the day, I ended up getting into EMS and identified the problem in ongoing fashion. So it became apparent that we needed a gap filler for IV infusion that was simple and disposable. And that was the big goal that sort of set this thing off. So in coming up with what we consider our platinum product, which is this first gizmo here, the Easy Fuser, it's a disposable syringe pump. Essentially, it's the world's only disposable syringe pump. But to get there, there were a number of hurdles in play, and one was the user interface. Most folks are probably emergency physicians, and I should ask for a show of hands. Who's connected a syringe to a 3-port stopcock to try and figure out which ports are open and which ports are closed when you've done the LP or maybe a thoracentesis? Do I dare ask if anybody has cracked the port open during a thoracentesis and let air into the chest? Oh, sorry, it rarely happens. So the Easy Fuser needed an intuitive user interface, and it sat on my desk for years. And I had a stopcock sitting there. We needed 4 ports instead of 3 ports. And I'm going to date myself here because I'm going to say one day during a shift in the ED, I was playing with an OB wheel. Does anybody still use OB? Okay, good. Okay, I see one nodding. So I'm spinning the OB wheel, and I was like, man, okay, we could probably create windows sort of in line with an OB wheel that shows you what ports are open and closed. And that ended up being a huge solution for the user interface for the device that we really wanted to develop. So we ended up with 2 lines of disposable infusion devices. Most exciting, we kicked off the stopcock first about 5 years ago because we thought it would be easy. None of this stuff ends up being easy. But we raised nearly $3 million. That's an FDA cleared device. It's getting close to market. We have our automation systems in play, but we are still pre-revenue. I want to make that clear because we always get questions about revenue for UVC folks out there. So coming soon to a sealed, sterile container near you. Why is this a problem? Well, we're all frogs in hot water. The only 2 ways we deliver IV infusions, I call extremes. We have A and we have Z. So A is we mix meds up in a piggyback and we count drips and we determine rates and we try and guess how long that's going to take to deliver. And, you know, this is what we do pre-hospital. We do it in the hospital too. And then, you know, the most complicated version is essentially the same system, but now we attach it to a $5,000 electronic infusion pump that there's not a physician in the house who can use. Okay, maybe there's one, but you know, by the time you get through the 6 settings and the rates and all the other requirements, I did a little time study in my ED, and it takes an average of about 6 minutes and another minute or two of troubleshooting to make this happen. So this does not work in the pre-hospital space or really anywhere outside of the hospital. So we came up with this device, which really simplifies the approach to infusion. I'm not going to go through all this stuff, but it does offer a lot of advantages. One of the biggest advantages, aside from minimizing calculations and having sort of a preset rate, is it attaches to the patient. So that ends up being giant for EMS and for the DoD, ends up being a big partner for us. You know, when we're moving patients, and I'm an EMS physician, you know, you end up with all this stuff to move in conjunction with the patient. It's not attached to the patient. Anything you can attach to the patient markedly simplifies your patient movement. Here's just typical pictures that we've all seen, typical military, but this is not dissimilar to what we see in our trauma rooms heading up to the OR. And here's a picture my co-founder, who's still doing critical care transport, took the other day with, you know, eight IV pumps. So let's go back and take a quick look at this market. It's gargantuan. So nobody has filled that gap between what I'm calling A and Z. We have a very simplified infusion platform that sort of fills the bill everywhere outside of the hospital and even within the hospital. So EMS is begging for this device. I'll show you an interesting article here in a second. Home infusion ends up being a market that's 10 times what the EMS market is. And the military is a very large market as well. So we just, boy, it's so tough to get into the military market, but we brought on 2 consultants. One of them is Colonel Stacy Shackelford, who's probably the highest regarded key medical opinion leader in the military. She's a rather famous trauma surgeon, but saw this, pushed us hard to put a proposal into the Air Force, and we just got a $1.25 million grant to develop this device for the Air Force for all the reasons I'm mentioning. But those same reasons play into a lot of other big markets. So those other markets, me, you know, being an EMS physician, home infusion, who's still trying to grab all the old Baxter pumps that they can find and repair them. But it ends up, we brought on a veterinarian who swears this is one of the biggest problems in veterinary because it's not attached to the animal. So you have to tether the animal, put it in a cage, connect the bag or the electronic pump. This device, you know, connects right to the back of the harness on the animal. You can give IV antibiotics, IV fluid, even blood. So that's another interesting market the military has for their military working dogs. So here was an interesting article. I had nothing to do with this article. I was happy to see somebody recognized and wrote up, you know, many other key EMS tools and technologies have advanced and progressed over the years, but the IV infusion pump has yet to undergo a true mobile renaissance. I sent him a check right after I saw that. So therein, you know, I mentioned one of the hurdles we needed was this user interface, and here's our stopcock. Stopcocks have always been a commodity item, and this is sort of a tough piece to exemplify and convince people of its importance, but there are 10 different companies that all make the same commodity version of a stopcock. Nobody's built a premium product yet until we have. So we have this stopcock that shows you definitively what's open or closed. It also has a position you can click in between the other positions where it'll show you 3 red bars, so you can turn all 3 ports off immediately if that's your desire. I think I'll leave it there and open up to questions. Thank you.
Questions for Dave?
Here's sort of what the little gadgetry will look like, and it can click on the patient, and I'm not getting anything right now, by the way, just so you're tracking. Dang it.
I do have a question to kick it off for you.
Yes.
This is not the first time I've heard your presentation. I was slightly astounded and a little scared when you told me why the Department of Defense is so interested in the infuser.
Right. Yeah, the DoD is terrified regarding near-peer adversaries. So what we've seen in Ukraine is prolonged field care extending, but they imagine if we are in a adversarial event with China, Russia, or others, normally we, the US, can evacuate in 1, 2, 3, 4 hours. In this scenario, they imagine 1, 2, 3, 4 days out to a week or two. So they want to be able to treat these folks in the field with kits of medication that are easy to use, intuitive, but it's the near-peer adversarial events that they are really nervous about. And this area is called prolonged field care. Yeah, great question. Any other questions?
I do have one more question for you.
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about the cost of production for the infuser and some of the economies of scale that you expect?
Right, great question. The beautiful thing about plastic mechanical devices is they're pretty easy to define the cost of goods. And in general, our profit margin on all these things is about 40 to 50%. So it's pretty easy to go from cost of goods to retail. The cost of goods on our infuser will be about $30, $40, and we're going to sell it for less than 100. It is single patient use, which means it can be repetitively used on the same patient up to 3 days. So you have repetitive antibiotics to give, et cetera, you keep using it for the same patient. But the stopcock retail around $1.75. It'll cost us about 90 cents to make. Same rules apply, kind of. Thank you for that. Thanks, folks. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you very much.
Turn that off.
Our final presentation is going to be from Ring Rescue. They're going to take a minute to get set up. In the meantime, we still have drink tickets. And the problem is we can't get refunds on those drink tickets. So it is crucial that we spend all of them. So feel free to grab some drink tickets in the back. We have some open seats. Feel free to take a seat. There is a hazard zone possibly for this presentation, but you'll be safe. Don't worry. Come close. And we'll get started in just a minute. Of course. They're going to fly. Of course. Awesome work. Did you put the mic down?
I did.
Oh,
I set it
perfect.
up
Thank
on
you.
the table.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much. Can I mic you up real quick?
Yeah, 100%.
Cool.
And then I got your slide deck from a few minutes ago. That's the one that we've got.
That's the one. Yeah, thank you.
This okay here?
Yeah, 100%.
Cool. And then feel free to clip this wherever you'd like.
Want to go underneath the shirt?
It doesn't matter. No, that's fine. Probably a little awkward.
What? Can you shove up the tape under? Check your mic. Yep. So this goes back here.
Yep. And then this is going to be your mic. Circle is off. Positive is on.
Okay.
I'll leave that off for now. I'll leave that right here for you. And that's mine.
Where's your ring? Ring coat.
And then for the slides.
Let's get this thing plugged in.
For your slides, this is your clicker, forward, back. I'm going to leave that right here for you.
Dr. Kevin Spencer. I'm an emergency department physician, mechanical engineer, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ring Rescue. So as a brief overview, our goal is to be the global standard of care for a common medical problem. Our traction is strong with 24 months in the market for our Ring Rescue Kit. We've seen over 4x year-over-year growth, and our IP is secure with 6 granted patents and 10 open applications. And we are here seeking 2.5 million of investment with 1 million committed and 1.5 remaining. Okay, so as some of you might know, we've actually been on the Canadian Shark Tank, and we made a deal there, and we're gonna begin our presentation here at ASAP using a similar pitch format. The difference is that the sharks didn't know the stuck ring problem firsthand, like you folks who work in the emergency department. So let's have a show of hands. How many of you in the audience here work in the emergency department? Yeah, most people here. Okay, perfect. So keep your hand up if you've had to manage stuck rings before, okay? Most of you, perfect. Now, keep your hand up if you love the prior solutions to ring removal. I'm not seeing any hands. Okay, so that's why we're here. Hundreds of millions of people wear rings every day. Fingers can swell for many reasons, and stuck rings are a common worldwide problem that can become a medical emergency. In North America alone, we estimate that medical and fire rescue professionals see stuck rings over 100,000 times a month. And so if it's a minimally stuck ring, a little bit of lubrication at home might get the ring off. That's also not why we're here. If it's truly a stuck ring, the traditional tools simply can't handle thicker rings. Newer ring styles are harder ring materials. And so before our solutions, we're often left dealing with stuck rings using hardware store tools like this on your finger, on a patient's finger. So looking at the Dremel manual, not for medical use, serious personal injury may result, sun loss of control may occur. This is a medical legal nightmare. So let's recreate the scene. So we're gonna have a stuck titanium ring on this mannequin hand. Imagine this is the emergency department. Failed string wraps, failed manual ring cutters, and you don't yet have Ring Rescue products. So, okay, so I'm gonna measure the temperature of the ring as I'm trying to cut it, and let's get started. Ooh. 347 degrees Fahrenheit. It's pretty quick in about 10 seconds of cutting. So this puts patients at risk of injury and healthcare professionals at risk of liability. And that is why we have created the best products in the world for fast and safe stuck ring removal, redefining the standard of care. The Ring Rescue Kit is FDA registered and includes 2 approaches to stuck ring removal. The compression device goes over top of the finger, pumps up with air, and shrinks your finger. And if you have a skinnier finger, you can sometimes remove a ring intact without having to cut the ring or causing ring damage. But there are certainly still a lot of cases where we need a better ring cutter that cuts faster, cuts safer, and cuts any ring metal, including titanium and tungsten carbide rings. And so, what we're gonna do, show you the Dolphin ring cutter. So the sophisticated Dolphin ring cutter enables a single caregiver to safely cut any ring metal in minutes with no heat or burns. It has actually an onboard computer with a feedback loop to control for all of this. And this standard process allows cases to be resolved in minutes safely by a single person. So to illustrate this point, we're actually gonna have Dr. Adam Goodgoff over here. He's an emergency physician and social media influencer with over 2 million followers, cut a tungsten carbide ring off of Morgan's finger in front of the live stream camera in the back over there. So we're gonna do that live ring cut over there while we continue up here, and we're gonna come back to them in a couple of minutes. All right, so how common is this problem? 55% of the US adult population wears rings. When I looked at everybody's hands in the air, I saw a lot of people wearing rings here today. 70% of ring wearers report a stuck ring experience in the past, and 26% of those stuck ring experiences needed healthcare intervention. So in addition to emergency departments, there's jewelry stores, jails, funeral services, long-term care, cruise lines, and other professionals also see this problem regularly. So just a quick warning about some graphic content about how bad this problem can get. Severe stuck ring cases include ring avulsion injury, and unresolved cases may lead to amputation. So why wasn't this problem solved before? So the answer is rings changed and tools didn't. So traditional ring cutters were intended for softer ring metals, and they simply can't handle thicker rings, newer ring styles, or harder ring metals, including titanium and tungsten in particular. And as a result, improvised solutions surfaced using repurposed hardware store tools and other unregulated devices for patient care. So injuries inflicted as a result of ring removal methods include burns from grinding heat, lacerations, risks from sparks, and FDA and regulatory protections are circumvented when unregistered tools are used in patient care. So just to recap, historical remedies are ineffective, inefficient, and cause significant risk of patient harm. So the Ring Rescue Kit, let's talk a little bit about this. Product pricing, it sells for $2,995, has a 1-year full warranty, a 4-year expiry. The consumables are $325 for an 8-pack of single patient use cutting discs. Our traction to date and our market acceptance has been really strong. Growth and demand indicators consistently ahead of estimates. We have over 1,000 product kits sold. Customers include many top institutions like Mayo, Duke, Cleveland Clinic, Cedars-Sinai, Mass General, Ascension. A whole bunch of top brand hospital and hospital networks are already using our products. Single patient use consumables are currently driving over 22% of our revenue, and we have 6 standard of care enterprise deployments completed already. Our goal is enterprise adoption and standard of care recognition everywhere, both in North America and then globally. So our executive team has experienced leadership in all functional areas. We are backed by 12 full-time employees across sales, marketing, finance, and engineering. Our board of directors includes Mike Hamilton, president of GE Healthcare Canada, Randy Williamson, CPA and lawyer, senior partner at Aird Burles, Neil Smith, medical doctor and founder of Resolute Health, and myself, I'm on the board as well. And all board members are investors in this round and in prior rounds as well. So our advisory board includes Eric Millage, former company group chairman for J&J Healthcare Systems and chair of the Medical Device World Operating Committee. He initially invested with us 2 years ago, and he was the first to invest in this current round, in addition to his extensive advisory role. Michelle Romano is a well-known business leader and serial tech entrepreneur, and she's a television personality, also an investor. Randy Reed, CEO of Sam Medical. Carl Flores, EMS leader and former chief of New Orleans EMS during Katrina. And Dr. Adam Goodkoff, who I introduced earlier. And Adam, how's that ring cut going over there? Almost done. Perfect. Okay, so let's talk about our market size. The total available market in the United States is over 2.5 billion, and the global TAM is over 5 billion. Primary markets include emergency departments, ICUs, perioperative, fire departments, and EMS. And secondary markets include correctional facilities and jails, long-term care, primary care, jewelers, funeral services, cruise lines, and others. And again, this product has a 4-year life cycle and single patient use consumables, which is really important when you're looking at the total market opportunity. So Ring Rescue has 6 granted patents and 10 open applications across 3 patent families, protecting us globally. Very important as we intend to be the global standard of care. And so the use of funds. So we're raising money. What are we looking to do here? Stuck rings are a truly global problem. Current Ring Rescue products have North American regulatory approval, and the use of funds is to further grow North American sales and to certify our products for the regulatory requirements of global markets, including CE mark. So please reach out directly to learn more about Gen 2 product features. And let's just go back to that Dolphin ring cutter demo one last time. How are we doing over there, Adam? All done. Ring is cut. Okay, so Adam cut a thick tungsten carbide ring off of Morgan's finger safely with no heat in less time than it took me to complete the second half of this 10-minute presentation. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time. Awesome. Looking forward to taking your questions.
For low volume facilities that aren't going to see this very often, you said it's 4 years that they have to know.
Yeah, so the product kit has a 4-year expiry, and that's driven by a couple of factors, including the internal battery. So with an FDA, basically any device, medical device or registered product with the FDA is required to provide expiry information as a manufacturer, and we have a 4-year product expiry. Now, the question about how often this is happening, we estimate that roughly 1 out of every 350 emergency department visits requires a ring removal. It may not require a ring cut, but whether it's an injury, a distal radius fracture, swelling for any number of reasons, it's surprisingly common. One of the questions people ask, well, you know, I see this maybe once out of every 6 months, twice a year. You multiply that single experience by 20 people working in the department, you start realizing that the department is actually seeing this more frequently than some people might realize. But to answer your question, it is a 4-year expiry.
And if they do, you know, order up again, are you giving them a break on the second time if they're not using it much, or if they're questioning if they want to come back? I mean, are you negotiating that, or do you have an ongoing like subscription model, you know, that if they re-up, that they get a break the next time? Because low volume facilities.
Yeah, so it's a great question. And so the subscription model, especially with the consumables, is actually something we're exploring. And the reason for that is because procurement is sometimes difficult to know when you're going to be out. And it'd be nice to make sure you don't run out of those discs when you need it at 4 o'clock in the morning. So that's definitely something we're working on. Now, in terms of the repurchase cycle, what we're actually going to work on over the next year or so is being able to provide the data back to sites and how often they're using it, provide a value analysis to say, this is your ROI. This is how many times you actually used it. If you look at the difficult stuck ring cases and the resource consumption in those cases, we can prove to your procurement folks that they're saving a lot of money by having our kit in the department, even if it's used relatively infrequently. And we can go through that. I've got the whole value. I'd actually love to show it to you after this. Yeah.
Other questions for Kevin?
Sorry, because I spaced for a second. Sorry if this is a repeat, but have there been any complications with the pressure device and shrinking the finger down?
No, so the pressure that we're using is 300 millimeters of mercury, which would be considered a blood pressure cuff might sound like a lot of pressure, but the threshold for tissue damage is over 1,000. If you're looking at string wrap techniques where you're winding the finger, you do cause tissue damage. You cause increased swelling, you cause lacerations. It's because the pressure from those exceeds what the tissues can sustain. We know what those numbers are from the FDA. We're well within that safe threshold, and we're actually using the tourniquet model when they're using, for example, in hand surgery, and you need to do a tourniquet for an extended period of time for a lengthy surgery. We're using pressures under that threshold with that 1 hour of tourniquet time as our frame of reference for a 5-minute compression cycle. So it's very safe.
This is actually Steven's question.
Does this work for priapism?
Yeah, great question. And actually, we're going to delve into the world of what we'll call urologic emergencies for a second. I think anybody who's worked in the emergency department can probably know where I'm going with this question. But so priapism, which is an extended erection, the question is, can the compression device shrink that and resolve that? So the answer is no. It's not designed for that. It's never been tested for that, and it can't do that, okay? However, what about the ring cutter? There's different, what we'll call penile emergencies that involve constricting bands. Yes, never heard of such a thing. And so this is on label with the FDA for finger rings. It can cut any metal. It can be used at the discretion of the healthcare professional off label for whatever emergency comes in. You need to be mindful of the size, the cross-sectional size of the metal that we're cutting, because a disc is a certain size. It can cut all those difficult metals, regardless of where they're located, so long as the metal cross-section is not bigger than what the device can happen. And as a manufacturer, I cannot endorse off-label use, but you can all make intelligent decisions about the tools you have.
All right, thank you very much.
Hey, look, thanks very much. Thanks for having us up here. It's super cool. Great to be part of ASAP. Please come on by a booth and cut a ring. Try for yourself. Try the compression device on your finger as well. Thanks, guys.
So that's the last pitch for today. We still have the space until 4 p.m. and I still see drink tickets on the registration table. So let's make sure we use those up and use that time to mingle, network. We have a lot of people who are doing very innovative things here. So make sure to get around and talk. We also have emerging companies in the periphery here. We'd love for you to mingle with as well. And we hope that this event is the first of many. Soon, we'll let you know when our next event will be, a next virtual pitch event, very similar to this. And again, I would like to thank our sponsors, including Inflect Health, Urgent Matters, the University of Tennessee Physician Executive MBA program, and Innovator MD. But most importantly, thank you to all of you for attending. All right, have a good rest of the meeting, and I'll see you all around.
Awesome.
Cool. That was fun.
Good stuff, man. Yeah, thanks for running that.
No problem.
Excellent.
You guys did all the hard work.
Cool. Good foundation today.
Yeah, I think it was a good start.